everybody. Thank you for joining us on this Tuesday, January 31st. Can you believe we are at the end of January of 2023? I cannot. It's gone by very fast. So thank you for being here with us. Again, I'm Robert Theobald, Small Business Ombudsman and Vice President of Small Business Services at the Arizona Commerce Authority, and your host for today's session. So we're excited to have you with us. We got a great presentation lined up from some of our partners. But as we like to do, we like to kick these off by thanking all of our community partners. We could not do these boot camps without their time, their effort, and their expertise. And this is just a sample of all of our community partners. We have 120 plus businesses that have shared their time and their effort and their expertise with us. Also, for those that are new to the boot camp, the Small Business Boot Camp is designed to help small businesses prepare, plan, and grow. And it is a statewide initiative supported by all of our community partners. We have partners from all corners of the state helping with this, and we appreciate them very much. And not only is it our Tuesday morning 9 a.m. webinar, it is also a content library and a series of workshops with those community partners. So we will talk about those throughout this intro. First, the content library. This is a great result of doing all these webinars over the last 2.5 years, almost 3 years. And we have over 200 presentations. We have closer to 250 presentations in the content library where you can access those at no cost. You can find the recording of the actual presentation along with the slide deck the presenter used. So if you're watching today's session and you're like, I want that slide deck, then you can go on tomorrow and we'll be able to download the slide deck from the presentation to review the information that was shared. You can also share the links to these webinars, to the content library with others, and you can watch it anytime. There's no specific time that you have to go on and watch those. So it's a great tool and resource for everyone to leverage. There are some other programs that the ACA provides to help support small businesses. We have our Small Business Services, our Workforce Division, and our Arizona MEP, our Manufacturing Extension Partnership. These programs help support small businesses in various aspects and are there for you to take advantage of. If you need or have more questions about them, feel free to reach out to me directly and I will get you that information or can you connected with those programs. Another program that we have that helps support small businesses as they get started or as they look to grow and expand into other areas, either other geographical areas or other business lines, is our small business checklist. It is designed to help entrepreneurs understand the commonly requested licensing, registration, and compliance requirements at the local, state, and federal levels. You can also find additional business planning, marketing, procurement, and other opportunities on that checklist. And again, there's no cost to use that. And as you see on the screen there down in the right-hand corner, the checklist is a really in-depth, detailed, ton of information. But if you're looking for simpler answers, you can access our virtual assistant, Sally, and she can help you find some of those quick answers you may be looking for. So with that, we want to look at our upcoming sessions. So next Tuesday is Successful Metrics for Traction. It's really holding your team accountable with the correct KPIs to track your goals and achievements. And then on February 9th, we have our first workshop. So I mentioned that the boot camp is a series of workshops. This is our first workshop of 2023. It is a long lunch and learn workshop. It is from 11 till approximately 2 p.m. And it is business tax basics with the Arizona Department of Revenue. So their educational team is coming on to share information on things that as a small business owner you need to be aware of when it relates to taxes in the state. And then following up on that, on the 14th, we have cultural marketing framework. So we've got a new marketing presenter there. And then growing, our next workshop is February 15th, and it's growing your business barriers to growth. This is an in-person workshop in Phoenix. And so that will be recorded, but that recording won't be released until later. Our partners that are doing this workshop for us really would like to see that in-person attendance. there. So we're excited to have that one if you're looking to grow your business. So with that, we're going to jump into today's sessions. We have Ashley Kelly and Jose Yanez from JP Morgan Chase. Most of you know JP Morgan Chase as being a national company, but we are fortunate to have these two experts right here with us in Arizona, and they are both have been in Arizona for a very long time. Ashley is a native, and Jose also grew up here, and so they know our market well, and we're excited to have them as our presenters today. So with that, I'm going to turn our time over to Ashley and Jose and let them get started.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here with us. Really appreciate everybody's time this morning. As Robert mentioned, my name is Jose Yanez. I'm with JP Morgan Chase. I'm a senior business consultant. My background in banking has been in the industry for 20 years. 13 of that has been in business banking. And that entitles everything from the lending, the underwriting role, the branch side, everything that goes into banking. I've been blessed to be in this industry for a long time. So I really want to thank you guys all for being here with us. A little bit about what JP Morgan Chase does is we have these program that we came out where we provide complimentary mentorship to all small businesses. Our focus is in minority-owned businesses, women-owned businesses, veteran-owned businesses, but we're here to help everybody. And the mentorship program that actually my counterpart and I do together is we will do one-on-one coaching and achieve about 2 to 3 goals. And typically we like to set about a 6 to 9 months time frame on that to help that small business grow and take it to the next scale. Whether it's access to capital, whether it's marketing, whatever your goals are as a business owners, that's what we'll focus on and help with. Like I mentioned, my counterpart, I'll hand it over to her. Ashley Kelly, she'll go ahead and tell you a little bit about what else we do with this program. Ashley?
Good morning, everyone. I am Ashley Kelly. I am obviously with JP Morgan Chase. I've been in the industry and business banking about 19 years now. And we also, along with our one-on-one coaching, we also do educational classes such as this with organizations so that we're getting information out to different businesses, whatever, I hate to say it like this, but a lot of the stuff I would say wasn't always available to the businesses so that they can, be able to have this information, the resources to grow and to scale their business. And so that's why we love our position. We can do the one-on-one, but also do these group sessions to give the information to the businesses and to give the information so it's not hidden, so that you guys have the capability of using the tools and the education to grow and to help your business. And so I know we're having a little bit of technical difficulties. It's, it's Monday. It happens. But we'll get into the presentation, and we're going to go over the power of capital, what that looks like, how you use it, what type of capital you need, because there's various things of capital, and it can look very different in a lot of ways. So if you can go to the next slide. There's something. It says why we're here. All businesses deserve an equal opportunity to prove themselves in the marketplace. And this comes to basically being equipped. When you're going to a financial institution, are you equipped? Do you have all your documents in order? Are you ready? Do you know the capital that you're needing? So that's where we come in on our educational classes to give you guys as much information that you need. The coronavirus and the struggle for justice continue to change the business landscape. The information you learn today will help you better navigate these challenges and prepare you so that you are able to go into these marketplaces, go to these financial institutions to get capital. Next slide. These times our tested approaches can help any business owner gain traction in times of crisis and times of calm. I always say you want to have capital, you want to look for that stuff when you don't need it. You want to do it ahead of time so that you're not, scrambling or you don't have things in order. So I do see a question. Capital Capital is basically funds, anything. A capital can look at, and we'll go into this in detail, but I'll answer your question. But capital can be like a line of credit. It can be an angel investor. It can be money that's coming in. It's capital that helps that's getting injected to the business. Capital can be from you personally injecting it into the business. It could be numerous things in that way of getting money into you to use for the business and for your cash flow and different things like that. I hope that answered your question. So 39% of minority-owned companies feel their primary bank contact treats their business owners with respect. I think personally that's a low number. I feel like that should be a little higher, but I also think, some people don't know what we don't know, and that's okay too. So that's again why we're here. The banking industry has underserved minority entrepreneurs, and it's time to change that. So we need to be able to educate our communities, to grow our communities, to help everybody so that we're all on the same playing field and can go into those, the financial institutions or non-financial institutions and feel comfortable asking for capital or asking questions. What is capital, or what type of capital do I need? That's where we need to do that and see the change. And just a quick question just for you to ask yourself. How confident do you feel about your knowledge of business and your credit options? You either are very confident and you're not confident, and that's okay to be on either side. But it's okay also to start educating and asking questions, because the more knowledge that you gain about that, the more empowered you are to be able to understand that and to ask for capital or understand what capital you need. You can go to the next one.
Oh, I think I passed one. I'll take it from here, Ashley, if you don't mind. So now we're going to think strategically about cash flow. And the first question is, what is cash flow? Cash flow is much more than money in the bank. When it comes to banking industry, we love this word because this really tells us your bloodline, your lifeline of your business. That is your cash flow. That's money coming in. That's money going out. If money sits, how long does it sit? Where does it sit? Where is it supposed to go? That's really what when it comes to cash flow, it's more than money to the bank. And how do businesses use cash flow? Obviously, you pay suppliers, you have your payroll, you'll have your rent, your mortgage, your rent, and then obviously you reinvest to your business. These are all different ways that money goes out of your cash flow. So we need to make sure that we have enough money coming in. For instance, there's some key points when it comes to cash flow needs to be managed. If you're not effectively managing your cash flow and knowing your day-to-day, even week-to-week, how much money is coming in, then it's really hard to translate that to the bank when you need capital. As a bank, we want to know, your business the best. We want to know how it works so we can feel comfortable extending credit to your business. An effective process for payables and receivables can help you better manage the timing of your revenue and expenses. And that is very key to know. If you have your payables, are you on a net 30, net 45, net 60 payables? Are you giving your clients the best option to get your cash back? Whether it's accepting like credit card services, merchant services, so you can get your money right away, or are you letting checks come by so it takes a little bit longer to get your cash flow? And that's why being effective, having an effective process when it comes to your payables and receivables is very important. And obviously borrowing capital strategically can help ensure that you will have the cash when you need it. Ashley said it earlier, it is very important for a business to ask for cash before you need it. Obviously, there's turnaround times when it comes to for a bank to do their underwriting, but also you want to show that your company is able, when it's strong, to borrow that. Typically, when you need money, it's almost too late. It does take longer. You may not get the same approvals because the numbers aren't the same. So it's very important to be strategic when it comes to borrowing money. And Ashley, I think you're going to help us out with this one, right?
Yeah. The big question is, does your business need to borrow? I hear this a lot. I need $50,000 or I need this amount. But have you really sat down and looked at the numbers to see exactly what you need to borrow and how much every item is? If I'm buying a piece of equipment, how much is that? If you need some working capital to carry some float, have you considered that? Having that down to I like to tell people there should be only like a $2,000 to $3,000 difference in what you need, because when you get capital, especially if you're borrowing on it and there's interest on it, You don't want money just sitting there and you're paying interest on it and you're not using it, or you use it for something else and it's not benefiting your business. Remember that when you borrow capital, you have to plan to pay it back. So also you want to make sure, am I in the position to pay it back? Have I looked at my number? Have I looked at my expenses? Is my cash flow enough coming in to cover those payments? You want to think about that. I like to think there should be at least a 3 to 6 month buffer in there in case something happens with the business, everything like that, you're still able to pay that, because it could negatively affect you personally and on the business, and it could put you into a bad place. What lenders want to know, how long has your business been, how long have you been in business? That's really important. Different lenders have different requirements. There are ones that do stuff for startups. More traditional banks, they like to see 2 to 3 years, at least, of financials, of tax returns. And then also the big thing, is your business profitable? And this is not your top line revenue, not the cash that's coming in and out of your bank account or whatever that's happening. It's your actual net profit. So everything in between that top line revenue, you do all your expenses, all your like employee payouts, anything like that, that number at the bottom, your net profit, is what banks will look at to see if your business is profitable. And a lot of businesses, they have tax strategies and they work with their accountant. Again, I'm not an accountant, and I always recommend to talk to your accountant, but you'll do tax strategies and you'll take all the money out of the account. But what happens is when you do that, if you have nothing there or you're negative and you go to a bank, they're not going to have anything to underwrite. They can't see that. So it's always important to talk to your accountant or your CPA, or to have a tax strategy to show that you have some profit in there, because that's what banks look at. And then understanding your business. Jose tapped on this. Is your business seasonal? When you go to get underwriting, they're going to see that in the numbers, and then you need to have an explanation. So yes, I might slow down in the summer, but in the spring and fall and winter, I pick up. And so that's when it carries over, understanding that. And then, do you need to build credit? Do you have any credit? It's kind of the same thing on the personal side. When you go to get certain things, you have to have some sort of credit history. A lot of times, and I say this very, very carefully, credit cards is a good way to establish credit for a business, because you can get a small credit card. But I say that it's not to be relied upon. You need to pay it back, because that also can negatively affect you. You just have to use it in the right way, and it can be beneficial, and it's safer than using a debit card that's attached to your business checking account. And then also you get points and all these different things. There's some benefits to it. So make sure you're looking at stuff like that. And that's an easy way to build credit. And are you looking to expand? I always say 3rd and 4th quarter of a year, you should be already looking on going into the next year. Are you looking to expand? What is that going to look like? What do I need to do? Do I need to get another building? I need to add employees, things like that. Those are things that you need to look at. Well, I need new equipment to help my business. Start looking and planning to do that. So you know, kind of, oh, okay, I'm going to need a loan for this new piece of equipment. How can I plan to this? I'm going to start setting money aside, things like that. So what is credit? Credit has different meanings based on the context in which you're talking about it. It can be credit worthiness or credit history. Credit worthiness is if I'm looking at you right now and you have good credit, your current credit history is good. You've been established for a really long time. You keep good balances. You are showing that you can pay the loan back. That's credit worthiness. Credit history is everything that you've already done in the past, and that falls in to credit worthiness. But those are the differences. In this presentation, generally, we use credit to mean the agreement between a borrower and a lender. So when we're looking for credit, that's what we're doing, like what the lender is going to look at and what the borrower is going to need to do that. And I do have a question. Why do so many people, sorry, I'm going to look at that. Why do so many people say that it's okay and expect it not to make money the first year? Is that a tax strategy? I mean, it could. That's definitely an accounting question. You know, sometimes you do because you don't know what you're going to be paying in taxes for the first year. You don't know all the different things. So that definitely could be a tax strategy. And different accountants do different things. Like, you know, your personal stuff can have can weigh in on that. What type of assets, meaning like if you have property already, or you have, anything like that, that can go into it. So they might want to show not having a profit for tax reasons. But again, I strongly recommend if you're doing something like that, or if you're trying to have a tax strategy, make sure you're communicating that with your CPA. So they understand that, yes, we have a tax strategy, but you know what? I need to purchase some equipment, or I'm looking to purchase a building and I want to go to my bank. So they're on the same page, and maybe there's some other ways to doing that.
And then real quick, Ashley, if I can add to Jennifer's question, sometimes for the first year, you got to think about it when you start a business. And once again, we're not CPAs. These are all questions for CPAs that we would recommend. But what we see sometimes with smaller businesses is you're injecting capital yourself to start your business. So if you're injecting capital, you're like, okay, like Ashley mentioned, I'm buying a piece of equipment. I need a computer. I need hardware. All this stuff on your first year, typically you may not get that money back in sales. So you're always going to show that what I put into the business is less than what I've actually made in profitability. So sometimes that tax strategy says I'm going to take a loss the first year. We understand that, but as you grow year 2, year 3, then we're going to see those trends continue. And that may be a reason why, Jennifer, going to your question, why is it a tax strategy? Because you're probably not going to get the money back that you injected originally. And then if I can take this one, Ashley, if you don't mind. So one question that we always ask small businesses is, why are you a good investment? You are your business's most important asset. And that's something to remember when it comes into it. When banks give a loan out to a business with their EIN, we understand that's the business. We understand that's the EIN, but you are the most important asset, because at the end of the day, your business depends on you. And some things that we look at it's the leadership. A bank wants to know why you're the right person to lead this business. There's 5 C's of capital, and one of them is character, and that all falls into leadership. We want to make sure that your business stays in business, that you have the team, that you have the staff, everything you do to keep your business growing and scaling. One thing we've always said as business bankers is we don't want to be landlords. We don't want to own your business. We just want you and your team to keep growing. We just want to be a partner to help you guys grow. And then your cash flow is critical to your ability to secure a loan. Once again, that is you, that is your personal finances, that is the business finances, because obviously you got to pay yourself for your business as an employee of your business per se. So it's very critical that your ability to secure a loan is part of your cash flow. And obviously your collateral. What is your collateral? What assets, including assets with cash value, as collateral can make it easier to get a loan. If you have assets, whether it's under the business, whether it's yourself personally, we'll go over a couple different loans that can actually take your personal assets as collateral for a business loan. But those are the things that will make it a lot easier to get that loan, to secure a loan with them.
Hey,
so
Jose,
like I mentioned, oh yes.
sorry, there's a question in the chat from Javier. He asks, would it be reasonable or not to take a business loan for investment growth when the business has cash on hand? I think it is reasonable to take a loan out because you don't want to deplete all your cash on hand, right? And you want to make sure the loan is good. If you're leveraging it in the right way, I think it's a good idea to do that, right? To have a plan on how you're going to pay that back. Because if you use all of your cash on hand and you don't have any other capital, that could also put your business into a sticky situation. And if you can find a loan or have a line of credit that could carry you over, and the rates are not too high and it's not going to make a huge impact on your cash flow, I think it's a great way to leverage and to use loans in that way. Yes.
And something you can also take into account, Javier, is look at the numbers. If I take out a loan and I'm paying X amount of interest for the next 6 months, but I'm going to make, double or triple what I'm going to make that, then that becomes a business expense for you, the interest. So you really have to calculate it. Like Ashley said, keeping cash on hand is key, but kind of take a step back and say, what if I only use part of my cash and then get a loan out? And it might be a little bit cheaper. So it's really a tax strategy in itself. Is how fast is it going to, how much is it going to cost you to borrow that money in that time frame for you to get it back? Like I said, those are all great tax strategy, but doing that calculation, I think it's going to give you a better understanding of what route to take.
And one thing that Ashley mentioned is if you use that, you don't take the loan, use that cash, you might get into trouble is if you use all your cash and then you apply for a loan, you might not get the loan because you don't have the cash.
Mhm.
You don't have the assets there. So, definitely keep that in mind as well.
It's a balancing act. Just you want to make sure you look at the whole picture.
That's it. So going back to yourself personally, obviously personal credit score is very key. Even though we're talking about business credit score, and we'll jump in that just 1 second, personal credit score is one of the biggest things that Ashley and I see with small business owners that really have to address with it. Because like I mentioned earlier, you are the business, okay? Track your social security number typically, tracked via your social security number typically represents a credit score between 300 and 850, also known as your FICO score. It is very important for your personal credit score to be on track. So if anybody does go on there, there's many sources that you can pull. The federal government gives everybody one annual report free every year. If you go on their website, it'll take you directly to the link. If you haven't seen what's on your credit report, go ahead and pull that credit report and make sure everything that's on there is correct. If there's something wrong or something that you paid off but it hasn't been reported, make sure you contact those creditors and get that cleared up, because as a business, we will pull your personal credit score to make sure that's in line with you, because like I said, you are your business. And then obviously we have your business credit score tracked via your EIN number and typically ranges between 0 to 100, although no single organization provides a centrally recognized score. Your business credit score will grow. That's not going to be the end all for everybody, but it is something that, to keep in mind that banks do use. But the one that I'm going to, harp on a little bit more is your personal credit score. That's really the one for you guys to recognize and work on. And then Ashley, can you help us out with this part?
Yeah. What financial data is important? We're going to go over that. So loan officers want to feel confident in extending credit to your business and that you'll pay it off. So having that is you're having your financials, your profit and loss statement, having a balance sheet, your tax returns. We'll even look at personal financial statements, because 95% of the time they're going to ask for a personal guarantee and they're going to look at you personally, right? And so like what Jose was saying was credit, that's really important, and personal tax returns. So that's the data we're going to look at, because typically an underwriter is not going to meet the business. So you'll probably have a loan officer or relationship manager that can write up and talk about it, but you want to make sure your financials are in order, because once they do a write-up, it's going straight over, just your paperwork's going over. And that's your first look. It's going to tell you about the business, the landscape of the business. So you want to make sure you have those things. And so what is the best way to build business credit? I'm sorry, I want to get to there.
Yeah. One of the best ways to build business credit, if you don't have it, is a credit card. Business credit card is probably the easiest way to start. It's just like personal credit. Business credit cards, that is the best way. And then as you get going, the big one that I would recommend, other than just building business credit, is building a bank relationship. That's going to be very, very key. If you have your bank, wherever financial institution you're at, make sure you guys have a relationship banker there. Somebody that you can call and somebody you can tell them, hey, here's what I'm trying to do. Here's my plan. What do you think? How can I attack it? Just as we've always say, have your CPA, an accountant, an attorney. Make sure you have a banker that they know your plans and what you're granted. So one of the best ways to build a business credit is start off with the credit card, and then as your loan scales and as your requests increase, your credit requests increase, your business credit will start building itself. But credit card is probably the easiest route to go.
Javier, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Jose, but Javier, 95% of the time, your personal credit score is going to be impactful on any business loan. It's very rare that any financial institution or any bank will not use a personal guarantee. It's very rare, and they're getting away from that. So personal credit score it's going to impact either good or bad. So it's always good to look at that. It won't go away. And even if you get to a point where you're not using a personal guarantee, they still probably will pull your credit just to see, again, character, how you do that, how you manage your personal stuff. Because if you're the owner of the business, it tells a lot how, personally, how you manage your personal business tells a lot of how you manage your business. I hope that answers your question. Okay. Tax returns. New business owners will need to provide both personal and business tax returns. So you want to make sure you're doing that correctly. I know Robert said there's a tax class coming up. That would probably be really good to get into. Maybe you're not at a point where you have a CPA or an accountant and you're doing it yourself. Get on those classes and really do that, because it's really important to stay on top of that and that you're showing things accurately, because again, we're going off of numbers, and numbers on the personal and business tax return says a lot. Your balance sheet. And a lot of these can get spit out through different accounting systems. I know there's QuickBooks, Wave, there's all these different accounting systems where you put the numbers in and it'll spit out a balance sheet or a profit and loss statement. A balance sheet on, wait, can you go back, Jose?
Oh, sorry. I heard profit and loss.
Based on a balance sheet is based on what you included into your, is included in your balance sheet. Your bank will calculate a few important data points on there. This on your balance sheet will show a lot of your assets, your cash, things like that. We need to see what you're doing on a daily basis, and it kind of gives us a synopsis. So a lot of people will look at your year-end balance sheet, because that honestly will tell us more of a story than your tax returns a lot of times. So we'll look at your year-end balance sheet, a whole year snapshot. And then we might ask for the first quarter or the first 6 months, and that gives a different breakdown to show where you are mid-year. Now you can go to profit and loss. Your profit and loss statement. This document summarizes your revenues, costs, and expenses related to your business during a specific time period. A profit and loss statement is like huge for banks. It tells me your revenue. It tells me your cost of goods. It tells you if you have stuff on accrual. It tells me if you have outstanding AR. It tells me so much, or banks, so much on this. And again, we'll look at this on a yearly basis and even on a quarterly basis. Your profit and loss and balance sheet will give you a clearer picture than your tax returns, because it gives detailed information. And it's really crucial. If you're looking even for grants, they'll ask for financials, not necessarily your taxes, but your financials. They'll ask for things like that. Definitely loans, they want to see this. So having these things in order are really important.
And if you don't have access to this stuff readily, make sure you do. These are the health, the financial health of your business. These break down everything for you. So if you don't have that readily available, I highly suggest that you familiar yourself with that and get that. Jennifer has a question. How do you suggest keeping track of P&L, Excel, or QuickBooks? I will say QuickBooks. As you enter everything in QuickBooks, Jennifer, it'll automatically create the P&L for you. And that's the one that typically everybody wants to see right away. So I would say QuickBooks. Excel is a great one for you to keep the track for yourself personally, if that makes sense. But QuickBooks, I would recommend, will be the easiest one to generate a P&L.
Any accounting software would be good. Like there's lots of different ones. So find one that works for you. I know a lot of bookkeepers and CPAs use QuickBooks, but find one. They have free ones. They have different types of ones. So just look at that, but just make sure it can kick out reports for you.
All right. What are your credit options? There are lots of ways your business might be able to get access to capital. All right. Business credit card is one that we talked about. Easy to access and use, but requires careful management. For business credit cards, one of the benefits is cash flow management. Like Ashley mentioned, you're using your money, you're paying it back. If you have a debit card that you're using for your business expenses, your day-to-day one, go get a business credit card. The only reason, there's many reasons, obviously there's rewards, there's perks, all that fun stuff. Get something back if you're using your cash anyways. But number two, security. If something happens to it, if your card gets compromised, it's not your money. Typically when there is fraud on a checking account, it does take about 3 to 5 days to get your money back. I don't know if anybody's ever encountered that. It does take a time. There is a lag. When it comes to a business credit card, it's not your money. Once again, it's not your lifeline. So with the business credit card, you claim fraud in it, you get one back in a couple of days, and you just keep going on with your days. So make sure you get a business credit card. But when it comes to the requires careful management, is these are typically high interest rates. You're talking 15 to 25%. So if you do carry a balance day to day on these, month to month, I would recommend maybe taking a step back and looking at it. Am I using this credit card correctly? Credit cards should not be used for large purchases. Equipment, whatever it could be, credit cards is definitely not that route, but that's one route to do your access to capital. Another one that we have is business lines of credits, a flexible option that doesn't have a fixed payment schedule, but will expire at some point and will need to be renewed. So typically with business lines of credits, they do have what we call a short term on them, which is 12 months or less when the renewal period is. And every bank has different stipulations. So please work with your financial institution to find out what their guidelines are. But when it comes to business lines of credits, it's exactly what it's similar to a credit card, but they tend to have lower interest rates. Lines of credit are great to have in place, kind of as a safety net if you're bringing on a new associate and you're not going to have, you got to float their payroll for about 2 to 3 months. A business line of credit will be a great resource for you guys. Like I said, lower interest rates. They have more, typically they tend to be interest only. So it is really a good one. So the benefits are funds for emergency expenses, operating capital, and on-time payments will be another way out.
Jose, let me jump in real quick. For lines of credit, I like to stress short-term use. It's not for long-term use. And a lot of banks will put in a 30-day rest period. So you have to have it zeroed out at least for 30 days. And so I would say anything over 60 days, if you're going to need to keep it on there, a line of credit is not the best option for you. And there's different types of lines of credit. Again, talk to your financial institution, but remember, just short-term use is for a line of credit. I'm done.
No worries. Business term loans must be paid with a specific time frame, and the lending process for the term loans is often more rigorous than revolving lines of credit. So business term loans, what are these? These are the ones that are going to go more than your 12 months, and that's what we call short-term capital. Long-term capital is typically what it's called, but these term loans tend to be more for equipment, real estate purchases, capital for expansions and growth. So if you're looking to buy a second location, if you're looking to hire, an outside team, these are what more of the long-term loans are. And for these terms, it can be long and more predictable repayment schedule. They typically, can have a 3-year to a 25-year repayment period. These are the ones, these are your monthly payments. These are your big purchases. So there are different options out there. I know we did get a question real quick, Ashley.
It's just you just saying thank you.
No worries. You're welcome. So those are options out there. So whenever you're looking for your business, make sure you take a step back and say, how much do I need to borrow and how long is it going to take me to pay it off? Is this something that's just going to be quick, a one-time use, or like with these business term loans, it's maybe beneficial to kind of break out the payment structure.
And also with term loans, you want to be mindful of asking about prepayment penalties, because there are, with long-term loans, there are prepayment penalties, and every bank does something different. So make sure you ask about that, and if there is one, what that looks like as well.
That's a great point.
Assumption that longer term loans usually have a lower interest rate compared to short term loans. It just varies. Sometimes like you can have a lower rate on a shorter term. I mean, every bank is different. It's all about the cost of the loan and what the market is doing, the US Treasury. There's lots of factors in it. And again, it's based off that, because I've seen longer term loans have really good rates because they have a promotion or just the cost of funds are different. And I've seen short term loans same. That's a variable question, I would say. And it's very dependent on the financial institution.
And sometimes just on that same question, sometimes if it's a longer loan with a lower rate, the banks want to make sure their return on their investment, because obviously letting you borrow money is how banks make their part. But one thing is they'll add a longer prepayment penalty. So if the rate's lower, they'll add a longer prepayment penalty. So in case you do pay it off early, they can get some revenue back on that. So it just, like Ashley mentioned, it just depends on the bank, just depends on their underwriting. But make sure you have all those questions and find out which route to go. And then some additional sources of capital. There are other ways to fund your business beyond traditional banking products. So there are CDFI loans out there. There's venture capital and there's small business grants. The one thing that I will say about these, because there's all different ways that you can go. You can get an investor, the CDFI lending, and the grants. All of these are just going to require your financials. I know Ashley and I talked about this a little bit earlier about the balance sheet and the profit and loss statement. Make sure you have all your financial, because even if it is a grant, venture capital, CDFI loans, they have those stipulations, but they're all going to want to see these financials. So the biggest, whichever route you decide to go, whether it's traditional banking or these additional sources, make sure your financials are available for them.
Someone asked about venture capital. Did we answer that, or did you want to know what venture? I didn't see it. I saw it pop up in the chat, but I didn't see it in the Q&A. I just don't want to miss that. I would say venture capital is a little bit when a business is more so really ramping up really fast, and you have like an investor that sees it's moving and it's trending upward, consistently upward, and you have someone that an outside investor that comes in and wants to fund or invest into that because they see the trajectory of it. It's usually more of a fast growing business. I'll go ahead, Robert. I see you jumping in.
Yeah, I also like to kind of recognize the way a lot of people might be able to relate it is Shark Tank.
Yeah.
You've got a business that people want to invest in, but most businesses that are going after, looking at venture capital, they're pitching to 100+ times at times to different venture capitalists before they find that one. So it's for most Main Street small businesses, venture capital is not the
best option,
not the method you're going to look at.
Okay,
Ashley,
so
they're going to help us.
Yeah, so SBA loan programs. SBA is great. There's a lot of options. SBA helps small businesses that meet certain qualifications to obtain financing when they may not be eligible to go through normal lending traditional channels. So, and a lot of traditional banks, or I would say normal banks, do have SBA within that. So there are options to do that as well. So SBA loans, the SBA reduces the risk to the lender if a loan goes into default. And so that's why a lot of banks, a lot of people like them. They're taking the risk away. This enables lenders to work with businesses that have potential, but wouldn't otherwise qualify for a business loan. A lot of times I like to say SBA will lend off of projections, where most banks and financial institutions like to lend off of actual data, current data, whereas they don't like to do off of projections, where SBA will take the risk and go off of projections that you do of what your business could do or what the business is going to do over the next 2 to 5 years. And then benefits for SBA: more time to pay off a loan, lower down payments, can include eligible fees to finance within the loan for an SBA. Open to businesses that are short on collateral or not yet operating or have or have a lot of debt. So a lot of times, like an SBA can go 25 years or 30 years, depending on that. And they have fees, and they can incorporate that into the fee, into the loan, your fees into the loan. So you're not having to pay a lot out. Or usually like traditional, you're looking at 20% down if you're doing a building or more, whereas SBA, you could look at maybe make 10%, different things like that. Those are the benefits, and that can help with SBA. So who is eligible for an SBA loan? Any for-profit business with less than 15 million in tangible net worth and have generated less than 5 million average in net income over the past 2 years. So again, this goes back to looking at, they look at the business, what you're doing, but they're also going to look at you personally. They're going to look at your personal financial statement, and they'll take tangible net worth. So all your assets, every retirement, all of that, they'll take all that into consideration, your home, different things like that. You have to fall within underneath that 15 million, both personally and business. So there's different ones. It's called SBA Express, a typically quick turnaround program that allows you to borrow up to $350,000 as a term loan or a line of credit. So there are different options they have available. Different financial institutions have these programs, or you can go directly to the SBA and you can talk with SBA lenders as well. So SBA 7A. As a term loan goes up to 5 million and ranging from 7 years, it can do working capital and real estate. So a 7A loan is great. It's just basically encompassing all of everything you need into one loan. And so you just have one payment and it's over a longer period of time. Again, it can be, you can finance the fees that go into it, different things like that. And I would say SBA loans are pretty reasonable on their rates as well. They're not too crazy. It's the difference that's really sets them apart from a bank is really just the fees that get associated with that. And the turnaround time with them are typically a lot longer. But if you go into it knowing that and you have good communication, you get your documents in order, it's not as painful, I'll say that. But it can give some people some heartburn.
Not as painful. I like that.
So SBA 504 is long-term fixed rate to help business owners buy and expand, renovate owner-occupied property. There's no maximum loan amount, and the SBA lender each make direct loans for a portion of the total amount of loans. So basically, what this will do is that if you're looking to purchase real estate, the SBA will take a certain percentage, the higher percentage of the loan amount, and the bank will take the other portion of it. And then what this does, you'll have two payments. It separates it. You have two payments, and owner occupied. It has to be owner occupied. It cannot be investment. And owner occupied is where you occupy 51% of the building or more. If it's less than that, then you would not qualify for that. And it also kind of goes back to just traditional financing. Same thing, the rates are going to be different with owner occupied versus investment. So always remember 51% is considered owner occupied, 51% and up.
One thing real quick, Ashley, if I can jump in, is when you're looking at the SBA, I mentioned it earlier that there are products that they'll take your personal property into as collateral. Some of these SBA loans will actually put a lien on your residential property. So keep that in mind. And we saw that, I saw that back about 2-3 years ago when people would have an SBA loan for their business and all of a sudden the mortgage rates just dropped. It's like, you know what, it's time for me to refinance my home. Well, that became an issue because there is a lien on the property set by the SBA. And if that's in place, then we couldn't refinance the house. So make sure you take that into consideration as well. The SBA is a great product. I always say, go look at your option where there's traditional financing. And if that doesn't work, SBA is another option as well. But just keep that in mind that they will take your personal finances into consideration and could possibly put a lien on your home as well.
Yeah, always ask questions and what that looks like.
And then this part will be begin building your own empire. So now that we went over our presentation, how confident, and if anybody wants to put in the chat box a question, how confident do you feel about your knowledge about business credit options? And think about when we first started this presentation, you know, as we're going through, they're explaining a little bit about what credit options are out there. If anybody can just put on there, how confident 1 through 5 do you guys feel about your credit options?
Nancy said she knows a little now.
Perfect. Glenda with the 4, 3, 4.
3, 4.
All right. I like that. Perfect. And we're at the end of this presentation, we're going to go ahead and give you guys our contact information, our QR code. If you guys have questions as we go through this, feel free to use this as free consultants. Oh, nice job, Jessica. We got a 5 out there. I know we got a 1. We'll definitely, if you have any questions, we'll be more than happy to help you guys. We'll answer any questions that we can. Perfect. Susan with a 5. Perfect. A lot of 5s out there. We should start recruiting them for bankers, actually.
I know.
We should. Exactly. $1 Bob, but I've moved to a 3. Oh, perfect. We got, and the Q&A, we got 1, but then they moved to a 3 because of this presentation. Well, thank you. And like we mentioned, if you guys have any questions, our contact information will be on there. But as we went over everything, are there any questions, anything that we can help answer while we're all together here?
I don't see any.
All right. Well, people are thinking of questions, drop those in the Q&A. Go ahead. You've got their contact information there. I'm going to share my screen here in a second and show you some of the resources that as they referenced in their presentation, some links to some of that information. So I do see we have a question.
Yeah, revolving loans. Any quick info on how this could fit into this presentation? Can you just clarify a little bit what you mean by revolving loans, or maybe Ashley, Robert, you
Are
guys can
you
help me out on it.
are you asking like, are you like refinancing a loan like that you are currently have and just getting more money out of it? Or what do you mean? Or like a revolving line of credit?
This would be revolving lines of credit. Yeah, so the lines of credits are typically lines of credits are just called revolving lines of credit. So business lines of credits are revolving lines of credits. And they just literally say you can use the money, pay it back, use the money, pay it back. That's the revolving portion of line of credits. They do need to be renewed, and every bank's a little different on their renewal process and time-wise. But I hope I answered that. The revolving loans, revolving lines of credits are exactly the same thing. And I hope I answered that.
Oh yeah, someone mentioned about the SBA putting a lien in your house. Again, just ask them, because it's all, a lot of it, we're not SBA lenders, but a lot of it's gonna depend on the equity that you have available again. So just be mindful of that and ask.
Perfect. And I think we have one more question. Are there fees for renewing your line of credit? Every bank's a little bit differently, but typically there is. Questions to ask, like the previous financial institution that I came from, they did have a fee for renewing it. It wasn't the same as the initiation when you first started. Typically it was less, but it just depends. Every bank's a little bit different. So go ahead and just make sure you ask that question, but typically there are fees for renewing a line of credit.
And don't be afraid to ask if it can be waived.
Actually, that's a great point.
Don't just ask.
Hey, Jose,
That
can
is
you stop sharing your screen real quick? I'm going to share mine while we wait for any other questions. We got some time for questions. So these are great questions. Please keep sharing. I'm going to show you a couple resources here. First, similar to the SBA that they went through, there is a new program. You may have heard of it, called SSBCI. And it works similar to an SBA loan, but it is a state level program. We just launched our website on that. And so I'm not going to get into details because I could spend a lot of time talking about it, but this website does a good job. It also lists the lenders that are participating in it. So you have to go through these lenders and essentially apply for a loan. And if you don't qualify for the standard business loan, then the SSBCI can potentially come into play. So I'm going to post this information in the chat as well. Chat brought up. So there's the link to that program. And then another thing I want to share is this is the boot camp homepage. And on the boot camp homepage, at the bottom is the content library. And if you go to the content library, you can see there's a ton of webinars. If you select accounting and finance and then hit view more webinars, it will filter and you can find some additional webinars that may help with your accounting questions. One that I wanted to notice, and I posted in the chat the link for it, was this one right here, this Bookkeeping Made Easy. And that one goes through some basic bookkeeping stuff, but then also talks about some basic software programs other than QuickBooks. And I think most of them are free or very low cost. And so most of those programs can also help you create those P&Ls and balance sheets and so forth. So again, I did post that already in the chat previously during the presentation, but I just wanted to highlight this section because there's a bunch of other webinars that we have done that you can go back and review at any time that can help you as you're preparing to potentially apply for a loan.
Derek, I'm going to answer your question. I saw it about what about lending on tribal land? There are different requirements, and a lot of people do land leases and different programs like that with different banks. So you just have to talk to the bank that you're with or find out the banks that they're doing, but it's typically called a land lease where they can't actually purchase the property, but they can lease the property for a really long period of time. So there's different requirements for that to do that.
And there are some banks that specialize in lending to Native American businesses as well. So we can help guide you to some of those.
Yep. And then do you have options for nonprofit startups? Nonprofit startups, there are options. It's hard. Are you meaning for like lending purposes for the nonprofit? A lot of that, because nonprofits don't have guarantors for startups. Typically, there are a lot more, I would say, more roadblocks when coming to that because there's not a lot to go on, and nonprofits aren't really geared per se to make a ton of to make money like that and do that very quickly. But I would look at probably like CDFIs, see what kind of grants are out there for funding. I think traditional funding might be a little hard in the beginning from different financial institutions, but I'm not discouraging. If you want to talk, I just say have the conversation.
I think we had a question. Derek, banks say no to a typical reservation business loan. Does Chase have any small business loans on the book? I know we worked previously with a couple in my previous financial institution, and Derek, we can answer this for you offline. But I know we've done loans on reservation land for businesses. Like Ashley said, it just has to be. Especially for the land, it'll have to be like a long-term lease that you'll have to sign with the reservation. But those loans do exist, and there are banks out there that can actually help you. I put my email on the chat, so if you have any questions, Eric, just go ahead and email me your contact information offline, and we can definitely talk to you, see how we can help with that.
And also, depending on the size, different banks have actual like groups that just focus and specialize within those areas too, because of all the different requirements, but it's definitely possible to do that. And then how many years in business do you have to have to get a line of credit? I would say typical 2 to 3 years, more probably on the 3-year side so they can see that, but anywhere from 2 to 3 years.
Talking about that time, is it possible when a new business goes in and sets up their business bank account that they can request a business credit card with a very low limit?
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
So, that's, to me, that'd be a recommendation to do that and use it prudently, so you don't build your credit from the start.
And it's going to be heavy on your personal. So if you have good personal credit and you have already an established relationship with the bank, typically it's going to be easier to get a credit card to start off, and you can use it that way.
And then one thing for banks that we always stress is not every bank does your business. Not every bank knows your business. Make sure you're shopping banks to find out. Just because you go to KFC, they're not going to sell a burger. It's a fast food joint, but they're not going to have that product. And you got to think of banks exactly the same way. When you go into a bank, ask them, what do you specialize? What do you guys feel comfortable? Not that your business isn't qualified. If you get a no at one bank, it's not because of you. Most of the time, it's because that bank doesn't know your industry, so they don't feel comfortable. So make sure you guys are out there shopping different banks and getting the best answer for you. That's one thing that I really want to harp on small business owners is make sure you're shopping banks.
Every bank, credit union, they all have a risk appetite. And then there are certain industries they're willing to take a bigger risk on. There are some banks that will go all day with restaurants, and there will be another bank that won't touch restaurants. There'll be banks that will do investments, and there will be some banks that don't. So like Jose said, just ask, see if they fit for that. Or even your competitors or people in your business, see who they bank with. How's their relationship? Get some inside scoop from other people. That's a good way to do that. Do you know if Chase works with companies in third-party logistics space? Yes, we do.
So that's a perfect, great segue to wrap up because we are right at time. But I'm so glad that both Ashley and Jose brought that up about shopping your banks, because they are a business, they have their specialties. And if you get a no from 1 or 2 banks, you keep going, because you might be going to the wrong banks and until you find the right one. So don't let a no or two discourage you. If you have a solid plan, it might just be the wrong lender. And so we hope you got some information out of this, and this presentation was beneficial to you. We had a great number stay on all the way till now. So I see a lot of people getting some good information out of it. Thank you for all the good questions. We had some very good questions, so we appreciate that interaction from our audience. We want to thank Ashley and Kelly, or Ashley and Jose, for being part of our boot camp series, for their time and their expertise. So thank you. And with that, we'll just remind everybody, next Tuesday's boot camp, we hope to see you there, and possibly at our workshop on that Thursday as well next week. But until then, have a great week, and we will see you soon. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.